Hello everyone, welcome back to Anupam Tech Talk. Today I want to talk about something that is almost every software engineer uses every day. Git. Most developers knows the basic commands such as git clone, git pull, git add, git commit and git push. But using Git effectively is not just about knowing commands. It is about using Git to create a safe, understandable, and collaborative development workflow. So, today let's talk about some practical Git habits that can make us better engineers. Number one, keep your commits small and meaningful. The first habit is to create a small and focused commit message. Imagine you are using on a login feature. You make changes to login screen, authentication logic, API integration, and some unrelated formatting changes. And then create a hug commit called, you called it login changes. That makes it difficult for another engineer to understand what actually changed. Instead, try to keep commit focused. For example, add login from validation, then integrate authentication API, and perhaps handle login error states. A good commit should answer a simple question: what changed and why? This becomes extremely valuable when someone needs to review, revert, or investigate a change months later. Number two, write commit messages for humans. A commit message is not just something Git requires, it becomes a part of the history of your project. Avoid messages like changes, fix, updated code, or even final changes, something like this. Instead, make the messages meaningful. For example, fix timeout handling for payment API. Now, 6 months later, another engineer can understand what that commit was about without opening every file. Think of Git history as a story of your project. Git commit messages makes that story easier to understand. Point number three, use branches with a purpose. Branches are another important part of Git. Instead of making every change directly on the main branch, create a branch for your work. For example, feature slash login dash validation or workfix slash payments dash timeout or refactor slash network dash layer. The branch name itself should communicate the purpose of the work. This makes collaboration easier because multiple engineers can work independently without constantly interfering with each other's changes. Point number four, pull before you push. Here is another simple but important habit. Before you're pushing your work, make sure your local branch is reasonably up to date with the latest changes from the team. Why this matter? Because while you are working, someone else may have changed the same part of code. The longer you wait to integrate those changes, the more difficult conflicts can become. This leads to an important engineering principle. Integrate changes early rather than allowing them to accumulate. Small conflicts are usually much easier to solve than large conflict after several days of independent work. Number five, do not be afraid of Git history. Git gives us the powerful ability we can understand how the code evolved. When you find an unfamiliar piece of code, you can investigate its history. You might discover who integrated this change? Why was the approach chosen? Was there a bug in past? Was the code added for a particular business requirement? This is especially useful when working with an existing code base. Instead of immediately assuming this code looks strange, someone must have written it badly. Git history can sometimes explain the context behind the decision. And context is extremely important in software engineering. Point number six, learn to use revert instead of fear. Another important Git skill is understanding how safely undo changes. Sometimes a change causes an unexpected problem. The natural reaction might be, let's delete the code and fix everything manually. But Git provides a tool that allows us to carefully revert changes while preserving the history. For example, Git revert can create a new commit that reverses a previous commits. This is often much safer in collaborative environment because the history remains clear. The goal is not to become a Git command expert. The goal is to understand what each action does and when it is appropriate. Point number seven, do not commit everything. One of the easiest mistake is committing file that do not belongs in the repository. Build files, temporary files, IDE setting, logs, generated files, or environment specific configuration can accidentally end up in end up in Git. That's why .git ignore is important. Before committing, take a moment to review what exactly I'm committing. This simple habit can prevent many unnecessary problems. Point number eight, Git is a collaboration tool. Finally, I think this is most important point. Git is not just a version control system, it is a collaboration tool. When you write a clean commit message, you are helping the next engineer. When you keep commit focused, you make code review easier. When you uses meaningful branches, you make teamwork easier. When you maintain a clean history, you make future investigation easier. So using it well is not only about being technically efficient, it is also about being a good teammate. So if you want to improve your Git practices, start with a few simple habits. Keep commits small, write meaningful commit messages, use branches with a clean purpose, integrate changes regularly, understand Git history, know how to safely revert changes, and always review what you are committing. You do not need to memorize every Git command. Instead, focus on understanding how Git helps you build collaboration and maintain a software safely. Because good Git practice do not just protect your code, they improve the way your entire team works together. Thank you for watching Anupam Tech Talk. Keep learning, keep building, and I'll see you in the next episode.